He is just steadfast and not willing to give up his dream, and he wants to make pizza, and he just persists along this course. So the book is really this story of never giving up on your dream no matter what else comes into your life, and that anything worthwhile, you're going to have things that stand in the way, and you have to just sort of expect that those things will be there.
This is A Joyful Rebellion, the podcast that explores that moment you realize the life and success you worked so hard to create didn't come with all the fulfillment you thought it would. I'm your host, James Walters, and I want you to be the author of your own story. Each week, I connect with people who inspire bold answers to the question, what do I do now to create a life I love? If you're ready to start answering that question for yourself, you're in the right place. So let's start a joyful rebellion. What if a viral pizza cutting video wasn't just content, but a love letter to your family, your history, and your purpose? Well, that's what happened to today's guest, Erica D'Arcangelo. Erica is a marketing pro, author, and proud member of a family that's been making pizza for over 60 years. Her latest project, A Story About Pizza, is a book inspired by her family's legacy. We talk about how Erica reconnected with her roots, how storytelling turned into purpose, and how even a neighborhood pizzeria can create a national conversation. From marketing burnout to finding joy in legacy, this is a story about more than just pizza. If you've ever felt lost in your work, this episode is your reminder that meaning can be even closer than you think. And in case you're wondering, we do eventually settle the whole pineapple controversy once and for all, so definitely stick around for that. Erica D'Arcangelo, thank you for being here today on this Joyful Rebellion.
Thank you for having me.
It's going to be so fun because we're talking about a lot of my absolute favorite things. It's no secret, pizza is one of my favorite meals of all time. It can be so many different things, and you can have pizza every single day and never really have the same thing twice. That's what I love about it. But also, we're talking about deeper than that. We're talking about taking big risks. We're talking about a lot of hard work, and we're talking about an amazing story. All of those things just fascinate me, and I love getting into them. So you wrote a story about pizza, and I should go ahead and disclaimer, if you haven't eaten lunch yet or maybe dinner, maybe go ahead and knock that out and then hit play on this again, because I feel like you're going to be hungry and not too happy with me if you don't listen to this on a full stomach. But Erica, take us through the book you wrote and what you learned about yourself and your family along the way.
Absolutely. So, I lived in Florida for many years, worked in the marketing industry, have a marketing company, and my father had heart surgery a few years ago. And so my family and I decided that we needed to go home, which was Western PA for the year. So we got there, and we've had a family-owned pizzeria for, since 1960. And my dad was kind of recovering from surgery. And I said, hey, let's go to the pizza place together. You can work, I can do some marketing. And my dad was like, I don't believe in marketing. He was very grumpy at the time. So I was like, all right, well, I'll just go help you for free. We can go spend some time together. It'll be fun. Yeah. So we got there, and he really became very engaged in rebuilding this business, and he even restored this 1905 building. And I just saw this place come back to life with him there, and was able to film content. And he would always tell me the stories of like my grandfather and my great aunts and uncles, and just the immigration stories. And so I just decided to write a book about the story.
Yeah. And you were basically his recovery coach for a little while, but at what point did you really see the light go off or the fire start building in him to see this place and want to really re-engage with it more than he had done in a while?
It was interesting because my father, he was the first person in his family that went to college, and he got a doctorate degree in education. And he was a school teacher, he was a coach, he was an athletic director, principal, then he was a high school superintendent. So he kind of went on his own career path, and then he retired. But then it wasn't until we had this health situation where he decided to get back involved, which I thought was really important, because I feel like sometimes when you retire, you're not really sure what to do with your life. And so being there for him was like, it gave him purpose, because it was my grandparents' legacy And I could see how proud he was telling people the story of the business. And it just made me happy to just see, that change.
It sounds like you grew up being around this restaurant and you probably had been hearing the stories all along. Were you there, or did you have the opportunity to be there when your grandfather was there, when you were really young?
Yeah. My whole, there's 5 kids in my family. We were born into the pizzeria.
Okay.
My mom worked there since she was 14. Even my dad, he was coaching and he was teaching, he still would go in there and help. And so we grew up with my grandparents, with my great aunts and uncles, our cousins, and we were all there. We were folding boxes at 8 or 9. My grandfather paid us 10 cents a box. He taught us to do dishes, clean off tables, sausage cheese pizza. He taught me how to run the ovens. Every person in our family had the experience of working there for most of their lives.
That is really cool. And you living away for so long, going off to do your own career, what was it like coming back and seeing everything after you had spent several adult years out doing your own thing, and then you came back because of your dad, but then he sort of reinitiated this adventure with the pizzeria. What did that do for you?
Yeah, it really changed a lot for me because I moved away right after college. I went to school for marketing, basically for advertising. So I actually moved to Oklahoma and I worked in healthcare marketing. And then I lived in Florida and I worked in healthcare marketing. And I had worked in marketing for maybe, 10, 15 years, and I was burnt out. I said to my husband, I was like, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. And when I went back and I was like, okay, I'm here 3 or 4 hours. I might as well, at a pizza place, I might as well film some content. I'm just here. I might as well help them. Oh. And to see that the first year we doubled the business. And then we started doing TikTok, and TikTok started to become popular. I would film just cutting pizzas. They sell 100, 150 pizzas a night, cutting pizzas over and over. I woke up one morning, I had 1 million views on my pizza cutting video. And I was like, okay.
All we did was cut pizza.
I was like, we can keep cutting pizzas. We've been cutting pizza for 6 years. Let's cut more pizza. So we kept doing that. And I have some videos with 64 million views. And they're open 4 days a week. And you have a line out the door and people are coming in that are like, we saw you guys on TikTok or Instagram. There's a guy it's at Pizza. And he, for some reason, because we were family owned, he loves family owned pizzerias. He collabed with us and he he would collab with us on videos and he'd say, hey, send me pizza cutting videos. I'll post them. I'll tag you guys. And so seeing this whole thing and just the excitement of, even when nights I wasn't there, my dad would call me on the way home and be like, we sold this many pizzas and these people came in and they saw it on TikTok. And just, It almost for me was I was done with marketing, and that kind of reinitiated my purpose to do marketing again because it was meaningful.
Yeah. I knew what the stakes were.
Yeah. I didn't want to do any marketing that wasn't meaningful. And I was like, I'm not doing this anymore for money. I want to do something that I believe in here.
So is that what got you starting to think about the story of your grandfather's journey? He immigrated here, so I want to talk a lot about that. Okay. But he didn't immigrate here and open up a pizzeria.
No.
So is that when you started thinking about, oh my gosh, I can tell a story that has a lot of meaning? Was it pretty soon after that you started to think, I need to tell this story in particular?
Yeah. What happened was, I was going to the pizzeria and just hearing the story. And then my dad, he took us all to Italy. This was a few years before. He took our whole family, he took us to Abruzzo from where our family was from. It was where my grandfather immigrated from. And then every year after that, we would go with my parents to Italy. We took my grandmother there. This is my grandmother on my mother's side. She had never been out of the country. Okay. And we kept taking these trips. And I just was this history, being in Abruzzo, seeing where my family came from, and then coming over to America with nothing, no money. You had my great-grandfather, my great-grandmother, 4 kids. They lost their 5th child. They had a daughter when she was an infant, and they picked up everything. They moved for a better life. They get to Wimber, PA. They go to work in the Burr and White coal mines. My grandfather's pulled out of school when he's 9 years old, and he goes to work in Western PA, in the elements, in the winter, in the coal mines, and this is his life. And there's so many people when they come into that life that they become so defeated. And he is just steadfast and not willing to give up his dream. And he wants to make pizza. And he just persists along this course. And so the book is really this story of never giving up on your dream, no matter what else comes in to your life. And that anything worthwhile, you're going to have things that stand in the way. And you have to just sort of expect that those things will be there.
Yeah. So it's a story about a dream. It's a story about resilience. And it's a story about legacy, because you've described, he had to work through a lot of adversity in order to get to his dream. And then that allowed the next generation to have a lot of really cool experiences and also have something that anchored the family together. And then your generation comes along, and I know when I watched the video, you spent Christmas Eves and just a lot of special times at the pizzeria. You learned work ethic when you were very young through that. And then you went off, did your own thing. Your father went off and kind of did his own career before he retired. But then it sounds like you all kind of came back in that time when you wanted to be there for your family, be there for your father. And whatever the magic was of the pizzeria, whatever the magic was of the stories and understanding where you came from, it reignited the spark for marketing. By the way, does your father believe in marketing now? Is he a believer?
This is the best part. So after the first year, he was really excited, and he was like, "You need to put me on the referral list for if somebody's going to do work." And I was like, "Well, Dad, I don't know. Like, you're my dad. Like, should I really have you on?" But I actually have him on the referral list. Like, if we have a client,
wow,
because he tells them, he's like, "I'm old school. I didn't believe in this." And then, he's seen it. And it's very just cool that he's changed.
You've converted him to be pro marketing. That's amazing. But it sounds like it really not only reinvigorated him about the pizzeria, but also reinvigorated your idea of what marketing could be. Once you spend enough time working on someone else's dreams, which it sounds like you did in the medical space, and just doing what you had to do, you learned a lot. But then when you got back and you realized you could tell some stories and make it really personal, and you could help a lot of people close to you, that meant something to you. What kinds of things did you start, not just a book, but what other avenues did it open up in marketing for things that had a really strong purpose for you?
Well, it changed a lot on the marketing for me, because we actually decided to launch a video production company just because of the power of video. Yeah. So that was one of the things. We did a book trailer for the book. My husband actually created it. He's very good at producing videos. And it's all about Italian history and culture. And then we did a little teaser because we're going to do a series on family-owned pizzerias. Hey. So we did that video, and just moving into that space and being able to really tell people's stories through video was the biggest part. Even today, my children's book is out, and I have him doing a video for the children's book. And so I think we just sort of move from traditional marketing to that. That is like, so many people who are authors, they're beautiful authors, and they create these amazing stories, but they don't know how to get those stories in front of people. And so that was the other element of learning, like, okay, I wrote my book and I just let it sit for 4 months because I didn't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
And I've been in marketing my whole life. And finally I was like, okay, I'm just going to take what I know here and use it to promote the book. Video, press release, social media, content creation, podcasts, just visibility. And the book came out. I think the first 2 weeks I was like pouting because I wanted to do pre-orders and it didn't work out, or I don't know what happened. But so after the 2 weeks, I was like, all right, let me get started. And I started selling books. And I was like, this is cool. Like, this actually works for so many things, but it's the purpose behind it.
For sure. And I've got on the screen up here, I've got the children's book. There's a children's book, and it's called, am I getting this right, Pietro's Pizza?
Pietro's Pizza. National Pizza Day.
It is National Pizza Day. I don't need any encouragement I don't need a holiday to eat pizza. I've had pizza a couple days in a row this week. What's your favorite thing to put on a pizza?
So I have been obsessed lately with the vodka pizza. The vodka sauce.
Okay.
That's been my recent, but before that it was like hot peppers. I like spicy hot peppers, pepperoni. We do a cheese pizza a lot. I think we've had pizza 3 times this week. just like in anticipation of the book and National Pizza Day, we're like, we need to have pizza.
You got to pregame that thing. And there's the children's book. There's also a coloring book, which I think is super cool. And the coloring book, it's not in people listening right now and not seeing the visual. They're thinking, oh, we're going to color pictures of pizza, but it's not. It's pictures of people. And I mean, I'm sure there are some photos of pizza in there that you can color, but you wanted to, it looks like, bring in the story of what's behind all of this. Not only some of the hardship, like you mentioned, but also there was a dream, and your grandfather kept moving forward. And sometime in 1960, what was the thing that allowed him to lock down the building, get that oven purchased, or whatever you did in 1960 to be able to open a pizzeria and start this whole thing? I mean, it's been a while since that business has been open. So what was it like for him starting that? Have you heard those stories?
Basically what happened was, he worked in the coal mines for most of his life. He saved and saved and saved. He lived just very conservatively, and he kept everything. And so eventually what happened is, in the beginning of the coal mines, there was no union, there was no protection, employees were underpaid. The union then formed. Employees started to get a fair wage. But because there were so many injustices, a lot of the people ended up getting black lung, and my grandfather got black lung, and the mines closed. And by that time, I think he was like in his 40s.
Okay.
And he had saved, he had worked and worked and worked. And so he went and he decided to buy this building that was owned by Berwyn White Coal Company. I think at the time the building was like $30,000 or something. Oh. And I think he had saved enough for a down payment, and he went down to the bank, he bought the building, and what he did was he remodeled or renovated the building, and they had apartments above on the top floor. So he, my grandmother, and my dad, and my aunt, they all moved, and they lived on top of the pizza shop. And then he had 2 other apartments up there, and there's this little Italian lady named Pearl who was sort of like a member of our family, and she came in and she worked at the shop, and he rented the apartment to her. And then we had someone who lived in the other one, and then there was a downstairs apartment that he created. Initially had, the rentals, and he lived on top of the pizza shop, and then they opened a market. It was D'Arcangelo's Market, and they sold like pasta and tomato sauce, and my grandmother and my great-grandmother would bake. And then suddenly one day they just had this, we should start doing pizza. They started selling the pizza out of the market, and the pizza just took off. And then it's evolved into pizza, and then just a full Italian, paninis, meatball sandwiches, sausage sandwiches, salads. There's a bunch of different stuff that they sell there now.
I don't know if there's any more of an American story than that, right? Yeah. That's so fantastic. And what does that feel like when you look back at all of that and know that you're a part of it? Because I'm looking at all the pictures right now that you've got on your website. There's a sign here, D'Arcangelo's store, and just some of the family photos that are going on. What's it feel like to be a part of that?
It was helping me to be more stable in life. It's like an anchor point for me. It's, my family, we're really, really close. My parents have been together since they were teenagers. We have 5 kids in my family. We're all 2 years apart. And it's really been something that is part of our identity. We go places on trips, and we're like, let's go on a pizza tour. Let's try the pizza. Yeah. We have Christmas Eve and family dinners, and it's really been such a part of our life for our whole lives.
That's really cool to have something that anchors you and to have that history and know where you came from in that way. And I am curious, I've experienced this myself, but I haven't been back and forth to Italy enough to know, because every time it's a different place. When recipes come over here, when we're experiencing, quote, Italian food or Chinese food or Thai food, whatever the food, whatever origin it's from, it's been Americanized in a lot of ways just to work with our palates, I guess, because we do have so many people come from so many places, and it's sort of the average of that is what happens with these dishes. How different when you go back to where your grandfather came from? What's the pizza like? How's it different from here?
So it's delicious. Yeah. I mean, every region in Italy has different pizza, but the Abruzzo pizza, we've had some different places, but it is the square pizza, and we do the rectangle pizza. I would say it's a little bit thicker.
Okay.
So if you go and get a slice, you maybe will get a rectangular, thicker slice of pizza. But there's also the wood fire, like the round thin pies. I almost think an Italian pizza is a little bit lighter. Like, I think it's just the ingredients there. I think the food there is just really clean. Just the flour and the different stuff. But I don't know. I mean, it's like a different taste. I think it's a more fresh taste. But at my family's pizzeria, we try to mirror this because my dad goes to Italy. He's actually getting his Italian citizenship.
That's super cool.
It's super cool. So he really tries to get the brominated, unbleached flour. It's the healthier flour. My mom's a master gardener. They grow the San Marzano tomatoes in the garden and use that for the sauce. We hand grate the cheese. We've been doing that since the beginning, and we make the dough fresh every day that we're open. So it's just really the freshness of the ingredients and just being very thoughtful about what you put in the food.
And that's hopefully where everything's headed. I don't know. It's certainly on people's consciousness of you can have a pizza if you make it out of things that are not Frankenstein foods, right? And it's going to be just fine. I want to talk about the most controversial thing I see on social media all the time. And I don't know if you know what it is, but it's pineapple. Yeah, I'm sure you were like, so what's the official stance from the D'Arcangelo family on pineapple on pizza?
It's a no.
It's a no.
We do have a Hawaiian pizza. And
okay.
I did post a pizza cutting video with pineapple. And let me tell you, the comments, there was some controversy on that one for sure.
Yeah, you were like, ooh, I'm going to have this. My phone is warm. I'm going to have to not look at this for a while. Why is it so divisive? Because pineapple's delicious. Everything about pizza is delicious. Do we know when this controversy started?
Yeah, I think it is an Americanized, like if you go to Italy, I've never seen pineapple as a pizza topping. Yeah. Now, I've seen hot dogs on pizza.
I had that in Florence one time. They were sliced lengthwise in quarters, and it was visually, I was horrified. My taste buds celebrated. It was like the best thing ever. But that was truly, and I was younger, so I didn't feel like I had the life experience to confidently say that was the best pizza I had ever had. But at that point in my life, it was the best pizza I had ever had, and it had hot dogs on it. So I'm with you. It's not a bad thing. But yeah, pineapple's just too much, it sounds like.
Yeah, no, it's just not, doesn't happen there. And I was the same. Like when I was 16, I lived in Italy. One of the first pizzas I got had hot dogs on it. And I was kind of like, this is strange. But it wasn't a terrible pizza, but I will tell you, I've never had it since.
Yeah, I've never seen it since, but I've been back to Florence a couple of times. I haven't ordered the pizza actually there, but I've had it in Rome. I've had it in places in Tuscany, and it's very, very different. If you go south, it's much more vegetable heavy. If you go north, it starts to get more meat heavy. It's all delicious. But there's no pineapple.
No, there's not a pineapple to be seen.
No, not at all. Well, that's settled on this podcast anyway. I'm glad we could work that out. I've had a food critic on, and we talked a little bit about it because I'm from North Carolina, and here the debate's not about pizza, it's about barbecue. And I live in the middle of the state of North Carolina. If you go east, it's a very different barbecue sauce than if you go west. And each one is really proud of what they do. And I'm in the middle, so I'm like, hey guys, I don't care. It all tastes great. Let's go. Let's have some barbecue. I feel the same way about pizza. If someone handed me something with pineapple, I'd be like, okay, I'm not going to get mad at you. It's still pizza. It's still going to be delicious. But I feel like the pineapple does steal the show. It's just really sweet. It's the first flavor you taste. It doesn't let all the other little delicate things come through, I've found.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
I agree with you. I think the true test of a pizza is the plain pizza. Like when we go for a pizza tour, we always have the cheese pizza first because I feel like that's what you judge everything else on is like, what's their traditional pizza?
If you can get that right, and that's the most basic, then all of the other flavors and toppings you would put on it are just bonus points, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Now, when it comes to crust, I am super picky about crust because, and again, all over the country, you've got people who like different thickness. I feel like we can't call what they do in Chicago pizza. I'm from the South, and we would call that a casserole. It's a lot of toppings, and it's really thick.
Yeah, a lot of cheese.
A lot of cheese.
A lot of sauce, a lot of toppings.
But when it comes to crust, what do you guys do? Is it hand tossed? Is it thinner? Is it a couple of different options?
We have two different pizzas. The traditional, which is like, the OG, which what my grandfather came out with, is the rectangular medium crust.
Okay.
Now, later we evolved into something called a Mike's pie. And we
Okay.
went over to Italy, I think when they were kids, and they have the round, really thin pie.
Yeah.
So we created the Mike's pie at DRX Pizza, and that's a delicious pie. It's a super thin, round pie. It's crispy. Like every pizza we have the crispy bottom on the pizza. But my favorite is for sure, it's the traditional first and then the Mike's pie second.
Okay. I'm going to have to travel up there and find a
yes.
Mike's pie. I love pizza basically on a cracker. Yeah, that sounds amazing. But with the crust, it's also, you've got to be able to hold those toppings without it falling apart, falling through. So that's tricky. So I understand. I appreciate that you can't just have completely, almost non-existent. I've never been a bread person. So I basically love all the toppings and then minimal crust. But I'm only talking about this because I'm hungry now, and I'm going to have to run out and find something that's at least decent enough to eat, because there's a lot of bad pizza in the world.
There's
just a
some
lot.
ones that are not good. I will tell you, if you're ever in Tampa, Florida, or Clearwater, Florida, you would love a place called Verola's. They just opened, and they're from New York, and their pizza is like paper thin.
Okay.
And it's super delicious.
Okay, Tampa, Florida. I got it. Now, how do people find the pizzeria where you spent so much time? And second, how do people find your book?
Okay, so pizzeria, it's pretty easy. It's DARCS Pizza, like dark, DARCS, pizza.com. If you Google DARCS Pizza, you're going to just see like a million things, whether it's the book or the pizzeria, because it's been there forever. And then mine is just a story about pizza, storyaboutpizza.com. All the handles are a story about pizza, and you'll be able to find all the books and all the stuff there.
That's great. Now, in this journey that you took on writing the book, I'm guessing this is your first book you've written.
Yeah.
What did you learn along the way about research? It was such a personal subject to you because it's your family and you're woven in a lot of that. So being your first book, being a story that's personal to you, like what did you learn about the process as you were going through it?
Well, I learned that there's different, levels to the process, and it's kind of like starting out with the idea and really outlining, and then the story writing, and then really adding the detail. It's an entire process. And then you have the cover, you have the marketing. A book is there's so many parts and so many pieces. And now I'm doing my second novel and, the children's book. And I think as an author, you kind of evolve of okay, what would I have done differently on this book that I can then apply to the next book to make it a better book, I guess.
Right. Without feeling the urge to just scrap the first book and kind of start over with it. I felt that urge before, and I'm like, no, we got to move forward. We can't move backward. This has been such a fun conversation. I love it when someone can illustrate what I call a joyful rebellion. And the whole point of this podcast is people who want more life out of life. And that started with your great-grandparents, obviously, because they picked up and they came over here, right? And they took a huge risk. They had kids. They didn't know what was going to happen when they got here. And they came into a life that probably wasn't easy, equal to maybe where they came from, but there were more opportunities that they saw. And then through hard work, your grandfather, the next generation, he had a dream, and it took him a long time to get there, but he didn't give up. And having that dream and then acting on it, that's the gap that so many people who want more life out of life, they're like, I want it, but they just want it. So to see a story of someone who wanted something and then they worked and worked, and then finally they just took that risk themselves and made it happen, so inspiring. And I really appreciate you for bringing that story out, being able to put that in a book form, just taking your time, because again, that's a risk. You spent a lot of time putting this book together, doing all the research, even though it was about your family and it was personal and special to everyone you know. To be able to get that out in the world to hopefully inspire other people is really important. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Now, I will definitely be following you guys on Instagram to see pizza slice, like when it's late at night and I'm hungry and I just want to torture myself. I guess I'll go watch some pizza slicing videos, and that'll be my own personal purgatory until I can get to an actual good pizza. But thank you for sharing your story. And I want to hear from people who are listening. What do you think about the pineapple controversy? Because I love just watching the games, watching the comments light up and seeing how people feel about it. I don't have a dog in the fight on this one, but I always love hearing people's passionate defense or complete offense over the subject. Thank you, Erica, for being here. And I'm going to try to make a pilgrimage up to see the pizzeria at some point. It sounds like it would be well worth it.
We will treat you to a pizza.
Thanks so much for joining me today. And if you have an extra minute, I have a favor to ask. Some of you listen to this show on Apple Podcasts, and a lot of you I talk to are on Spotify or Amazon. I'd love it if you would take just a second to leave a rating or a review. It lets the platforms know that listeners are getting value from the show and suggest it to others who are interested in similar content. And as always, if you have a topic you'd like me to cover, a guest suggestion, or just general feedback, I'd love to hear about that too. Connect with me on Facebook, Instagram, or at ajoyfulrebellion.com.